What's up, friends and foes? My name's Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
And you're fucking God.
Oh no.
Okay. Alright, well,
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. What's up, friends and foes? Welcome back to Let's Get Nerdy. My name's Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
And back at it like a crack addict, you're watching another episode of Go-Go-Godzilla, the series where we go through every single Godzilla movie in the franchise to determine
which one truly is king of them all.
And Wyatt, today, what movie are we talking about?
So today we're going to talk about Godzilla vs. Mothra from 1964.
That is correct. Also known as Mothra vs. Godzilla. Also known as Godzilla vs. the Thing in for the United States re-edit.
Wow.
Which I did not see one appearance of Ben Grimm.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I believe this is actually 2 years after the debut of Fantastic Four.
And Thing didn't show up. That's just rude.
Not yet.
Godzilla versus Mothra.
Here it comes.
And like always, we're going to go ahead and give our history with this movie and initial thoughts after our most recent viewing. Wyatt, go ahead and start us off. Do you have any history with Godzilla versus Mothra?
No.
That's fair.
No, so I've owned this movie for over 15 years probably. I never watched it. It came in like a box set I got for Christmas or my birthday one year from my aunt and uncle, and I just never watched it, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe because like the other ones had like Ghidorah and it was just the more exciting movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just kind of set it to the side and just got kind of forgotten about it. I never went back to watch it.
You thought because it had a butterfly and it was a girl movie?
No, butterflies are cool, man. I like butterflies and moths.
And moths. I guess I'll just kind of my history with the movie is very similar. I have seen this before, but I think I saw it just as a kid. I knew this was one of the more iconic or important releases, so I should definitely see it. I don't necessarily remember having a strong kinship to it as with any I think as a kid growing up I was a little bit more inclined to the Heisei era.
Oh yeah.
So so I liked it, but I just don't remember ever watching it more than maybe a couple of times. And after getting through our initial thoughts and a couple cat-related maulings there, we decided we're going to go ahead and get right into the more detailed thoughts about the plot. We're probably not going to be as specific as we have previously, but I guess why is there any specific scenes or anything like that you want to start with on this movie?
Not so much as specific scenes, but rather just a standout to me was the egg guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell his name is, but that dude always has an egg of some kind on him.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. I love. I mean, the movie kind of revolves around an egg.
Yeah.
And he always has some kind of an egg.
Well, yeah. So
a little egg spoon that he's eating an egg
yeah.
with, and then when he's frying an egg, it just cracked me up.
Yeah, and so kind of to get into the basic plot of the overall plot of the movie starts with a tsunami or a tropical storm hitting Japan and washing ashore a giant egg that turns out to be Mothra's egg.
Yeah.
And when they discover it, one of the newspaper reporters comes around the corner, and when they say a giant egg, he's already holding the egg. And you would think in any other movie that's the end of the egg-related
You would
gags.
think.
But every time this guy shows up, not only does he have an egg, he has a different form of cooked egg.
Yeah.
Because the first time it's just a hard-boiled egg, the next time it is a soft-boiled egg. Because he mentions, he's it takes 3 minutes to cook it. How long is it going to... And he does the math of how long it's going to take for them to incubate Mothra's egg.
Yeah.
And then he's got the little spoon for it, which I'm assuming that must be just a more common treat, maybe back in that day that they have spoons for that.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of soft-boiled eggs, but never specifically with the spoon.
Yeah, I've never eaten it with a little tiny spoon before, and it was that big. It was a tiny spoon.
It was
But then when they're in the there's some kind of a tent that he comes out of at one point, and he's got an egg in a skillet.
Yeah.
And then he's wearing a yellow hard hat, so I don't know if that was supposed to be like a yolk thing.
Yeah, like an egghead type
I'm
joke.
probably thinking too much on that now, but
No,
Can I offer you a nice egg in this trying time?
yeah, he's got. No, but like it's a very funny thing that like it's just funny how much they come back to that.
yeah, and it's spaced out far enough, and like it's not overdone.
Yeah, like you kind of forget.
Yeah, it's real quick. Just you know, they don't focus on it too much. It's just kind of like
He just always has an egg.
he just always has an egg,
Yeah.
and he's just kind of a little bit of a quirky character. So
Yeah. I guess leading into the characters I want to talk about are like I do really like the protagonists in this movie.
yeah, you too.
There's several different human protagonists, which like is not necessarily new because there was a human protagonist and I meant antagonists, but the protagonists are actually nice too. So
Okay.
You get two reporters and then I believe a zoologist who they are introduced to not only Mothra but the two twins. Which, this is actually Mothra's second appearance. Mothra beforehand had her own movie in 1961 that was just Mothra, which was also directed by Ishihiro Honda. So this is his second foray into the world with Mothra. And we also get the first appearance of I would say now iconic twins associated with Mothra in the Godzilla series. They were in the first movie too. I did a lot of very quick research about this. And the twins, to go off on a tangent, they are played by a musical duo known as the Peanuts, which were identical twins that would sing European folk songs in Japanese. Yeah, and they were very popular. They were very popular at the time, and that's why they were in this movie and Mothra as a promotional kind of tactic.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they have some good songs.
Yeah.
The
Mothra song.
Yeah. Well, I guess that is the only one.
It's the only song, but that's there's actually no. That's the cool thing I was looking into. There's actually no effects on their vocals, just because from reading about this, they have the natural timbre of their voices are so close, but are just one. I think it's one octave off, really. I don't know the actual terminology here, but it's different enough, but similar that's why it creates such a kind of a weird layering and echo. So that's pretty interesting, but
it is interesting.
Yeah.
They do a good job.
But yeah, the protagonists overall they're good. They're actually so far some of the best since the very first 54 Godzilla, and definitely I think more. I guess not as more enjoyable than the Rage Again. I would put them on the same level as the one from King Kong vs. Godzilla, just because
I would.
I don't know if I'm gonna remember them once we get to the next movie.
Yeah. I don't think I'm necessarily they aren't gonna stand out, but they were just they were good protagonists for an hour and a half long movie that. Yeah, I don't know. They were enjoyable and you could root for them. You felt like you could be on their side. They weren't annoying or anything. So.
Yeah, but what I was trying to initially give a shout out to, but I forgot the actual word for, or are the antagonists, which I forget their name, but they're primarily these two businessmen who they somehow end up claiming ownership over Mothra's egg and start charging people to see it and stuff like that. And I just think they're very fun, at times cartoony. Oh, yeah. You have one that is literally has a Hitler mustache and is constantly ranting and raving at people, and he's screwing over these local fishermen because he's using their real estate and stuff like that, promising to pay them but not paying them. And then you get above him. Turns out there's another guy above him who they just say he's his financial advisor, but it turns out he's the one that's also somewhat funding them. Yeah. And a big reason I like these antagonists is not only are they incredibly animated and stuff like that. For instance, their first interaction with the twins, the Mothra twins, they're trying to discuss what to do with the egg, and the twins go, "Give it back." The guy with the cool sunglasses ends up looking at the one with the Hitler stash and says why are you just talking in silly voices?
Yeah, quit making weird voices or noises or something like that.
And that got us both But I
どうだね。
いけません。
変な声を出すな。
いえ、私は何にも。
also like that it lends kind of still into, you know, like this movie still has a core message of like the extent that not just corporate greed, but greed in general can take people to the point like both these guys end up dying because they're fighting over a pile of cash while Godzilla is, you know, walking right at them, which you made an interesting point while we were watching it that like that might be the first instance where like Godzilla is specifically killing the human antagonist in the movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too that like the lesser of the two antagonists, he was always in like a brown suit. He kind of like he got mad about the guy above him kind of scamming him out of money, even though he had been scamming the fisherman out of money. So it was kind of like that snake eating its own tail type thing.
Yeah, like and then
which then ultimately led to like him beating up the guy above him, but then the guy in that position shot him.
Yeah, pretty brutal scene.
Yeah,
like the dude starts like raining down bullets, and it made me think of the scene from A Christmas Story. You know, when he's like cursing and he's like pounding the kid, pounding the bully, and the blood's coming down his nose.
Yeah.
It made me think a lot of that scene.
Yeah, and then he's just like digging money out of the guy's locker, which wasn't locked. Which I don't know if that's out of him like being cocky or just out of stupidity. But like he just rips his jacket off and then starts like ripping money out of the guy's locker, and then the guy digs his gun out of his desk and
just shoots him right.
Just pops him
in time to turn around and see Godzilla crushing the building.
Yeah. So I guess to get to like the monsters themselves too. Mothra isn't in this a whole lot for a while. Like you get a couple of small scenes with her flying around and just kind of hanging out and stuff. And you get it's a while before Godzilla gets into the movie as well, and then he's just like you see a scale, and then later in the movie, quite a bit later in the movie, you see like him kind of rise up out of the dirt and stuff. And
in what I think is probably my favorite entrance of his so far, of like the compliments I'm going to pay this moment are going to be very familiar to the criticism that I paid Godzilla 2014, but like I think the contexts are different. So like I think the first half of this movie, you don't really get a lot of appearances of any monsters really at all, but a lot of it is focused on this egg and the discovery that it's Mothra's egg, and Mothra wants it returned, or shit's gonna go wrong. And then you really, for the first, I want to say half of the movie, you don't really get a mention of Godzilla. You get like this, what turns out to be a scale, but like I didn't know it was his. I didn't realize it was a scale at first. I thought it was just some weird thing they picked up. But it turns out like it turns out in that storm that we mentioned at the beginning of the movie that was washed up Mothra's egg, also washed up Godzilla along with some other debris into Japan somewhere, and while they're, I guess, like I forget exactly what they're discussing. They're discussing like a land development and draining out some of the water from the storm. Mm-hmm. They start talking about like seeing the earth move. And this is part of where I want to say like they're starting to figure out the formula of these movies, because they build it to it in an expert way of like they discover the scale of radiated, so they start measuring the people for radiation, and they discover the land radiated, and the guys in one of the more minor ones, like a guy who still I think represents the corporate greed and all that, he's like, what do you mean radiated, get out of here, it doesn't matter. And then that's when like the radiation spikes and Godzilla comes out of the ground literally. I think is makes for just a really cool moment.
They're definitely getting their patterns down as to how to make these movies, and it works really well for this intro scene of Godzilla. So. once he does kind of wake up though, it is really like, he's just pissed off when he wakes up. You know, like someone who didn't get enough sleep, and he just starts kind of rampaging around and tearing up shit. And then we're into that classic, like everyone's freaking out, running away, and there's emergency broadcasts and stuff, and the tanks are rolling around, and you know, it's just he's kind of like clumsily walking around, running into shit, and like
he keeps falling into things and getting like stuck, like
falling over.
Yeah, he gets like his tail stuck in a radio tower, and he pulls the whole thing over. Which is the funny thing about this one being so clumsily is like, so this is a new suit, like this is a different suit than the one used in King Kong vs. Godzilla, and the guy in the suit, I'm gonna butcher his name, I think it's Haro Nakajima, who is in the suit, actually helped personally design the suit so that he could be more maneuverable and not as actually clumsy. So that means they were very much intentionally clumsy with Godzilla in this one. But yeah, like I thought, obviously, this is, I think, incredible, like a really good, probably in my opinion, the best Rampage scene since the 54 one, the Showa series so far. And the other thing is, like, we mentioned the music already, but like this is when his theme song, other than the opening credits, really starts to hit. Yeah. And I love how like just loud they made it, and so like you get this, like there's a little bit more dread to it than there has been before. And I just love, this might be my favorite version of the Godzilla theme song outright.
It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. It's super dramatic, and like once he starts rampaging, you see people freaking out and buildings are exploding and stuff like that. It really it takes you like the 54 one does. Yeah. They did a really, really good job with all that stuff. So, but yeah, that kind of leads to them like, you know, freaking out about Mothra's egg. Also, like they call it Infant Island in the movie. On the back of my DVD, it calls it Monster Island. I don't know if that's just like a rebranding from like an American release or whatnot. Yeah. But anyway, they go there to like, you know, plead for Mothra's help, and they gotta, you know, plead their case to the island people to have them, you know, get Mothra to help, which takes a little bit of convincing, you know, because they're not very trusting of outsiders after their island had been used for nuclear testing. So it's just kind of a barren wasteland of death. Yeah. And there's only like one little lush green spot left on it. And you know, then they kind of find out that Mothra's on her last leg and not doing so hot, and just kind of waiting for her last days, and she's just sitting up on this pedestal off in the distance, and there's like some light kind of showing over. It's a really pretty scene. Yeah. But they get Mothra's help eventually, finally, and then, you know, they're back off to the mainland of Japan to fight Godzilla. Once again. Yeah. But I was also gonna say it's interesting too that like they are again trying the like electricity to stop him. Yeah. They try this in every movie, and it never works. Well, it did work in King Kong. I guess it did work in King Kong versus Godzilla. Yeah. But this kind of goes back to the like, this is the first movie that Godzilla really is this unstoppable force, because like they do try everything from like, they drop like electric blankets on him, they drop legitimate bombs on him, and like he just walks through it all. Whereas like in the first one, the first two, he was driven away by planes and bombings. In King Kong vs. Godzilla, he I think was turned away by the electric wires and all that. And this is the first one that he just like bows through it, or like sets them on fire with his atomic breath, which I thought was really cool. And I guess leading into the first actual fight we get between Godzilla and Mothra, that's another moment of like, I loved how they built to it of like, I think it was when, in a period of like them just launching everything they could at Godzilla and him just bowing through it, when like the three main protagonists like then get to be like show up, and they're watching this happen, and then they finally get, and like the military shows up because they heard that Mothra's coming to help, so they're like super excited about it too. And then like as they're watching everything get destroyed, you get the introduction, like they're like Mothra. And Mothra like comes just in time, and it's actually a pretty fucking hype moment. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty hype moment for,
And Godzilla actually spends a lot of time getting his ass whipped.
Honestly,
in this fight.
Yeah. He really does. I don't love this fight though. Like it's a rough fight.
Yeah.
It's a lot of close-ups, like a lot of chaotic, like camera motion and close-ups of their faces, and a lot of like button mashing of their noises of their roars and that kind of stuff. And a lot of dust flying around and shit, and then a lot of like Godzilla getting his ass whooped and like
getting dragged away from the egg.
Yeah, getting dragged away, and then like Mothra, bats her wings and stuff, and like just kind of blows stuff all over the place and blows Godzilla around.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it holds her own really well. I was not expecting it to go that well after Godzilla mauled Anguirus and the other one, and then mauled King Kong.
Yeah.
Mothra did surprisingly well. So.
Yeah, Mothra, like, there's not really a moment where Godzilla is like the king of the fucking monsters.
Not really, no. Like, he hits Mothra, like, what, one time?
Yeah.
The atomic breath.
Atomic breath.
She just kind of like.
Yeah. So one thing I did read about in researching this movie is like some of I think a lot of the fight they ended up having to use some form of like stop motion for, because from what I understand, like the wiring on the Mothra's model, they were just having trouble with working, so they had to resort to like stop motion and stuff like that. So that's why they did like a mixture of stop motion and the close-ups that they did. But yeah, unfortunately, did not result in a great fight.
Yeah.
I would actually, unfortunately, say of like all the monster action in this, like including the rampages and stuff like that, like the actual full-grown Mothra fight and the Godzilla fight is probably the low point.
Yeah.
Which sucks to say, but like
sorry, man.
You go for it.
It's unusual in a Godzilla movie that like the monster fight is the low point of a movie. I mean, that's not. I can't really think of another one where that's the case, that it's just kind of like disappointing and boring.
Yeah.
And not confusing, but just like just not a good scene.
Especially because like everything up to it was so like really awesome, like really awesome and entertaining. Like particularly again the plot and the characters kind of being fairly like engaging, and then like the complexity of the people on the infant island being like, no, we just don't trust you. Even the twins who are like, we tried to trust you, but we were proven wrong that we can't trust you, so we don't want to help you. For it to lead to that again is a bummer. And then you do get like the first appearance in the Godzilla series. I don't know if it takes, because I've never seen the original Mothra movie. I know you haven't either.
No.
You get the first appearance of like the poison dust of like Mothra's death throes that we end up seeing a lot in the future movies.
Yeah.
Which was funny is they had to point it out, because on my end I thought it was just dirt they were kicking up, but it turns out
it was too.
It was poison pollen that's like supposed to be Mothra's final like last resort kind of weapon.
Yeah,
which,
and I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
I was just like the initial like scene of the pollen. It does just look like dust, and then like there's a scene after they explain it that they pull back, and you can see a distinction between the yellow pollen and then the dust kind of underneath and behind the Mothra. So it makes sense that way, but at first it just looked like dust.
Which I do have to imagine that was like a see thing of like, hey, what the fuck is that? Or them being like, we can't really see what's going on. But so this eventually leads to like Mothra just kind of dying. It's really, what was really funny is like Mothra starts kind of flying away, and the protagonists are like, wait, why is Mothra escaping or running away? And she's like, the twins are like, she's not. She's, we told you she doesn't have much time left.
Yeah.
But that's all they say.
Yeah, that's it.
Because she is running away. She's trying, and she ends up covering the egg. And so it's like, I guess, she's dying. She's running away because she's dying is what they could have said. But Mothra ran away.
It just like, she was kicking ass, and all of a sudden, like, her one wing's on fire and she's dying. And she just, like, does just kind of sputter away off into the distance. And not even very far, really. Yeah. And then, I guess, Godzilla just kind of, like, forgets.
Yeah, and just moves on with his rampage.
Yeah, there's not really, there's not like a big draw to pull him away from them.
Yeah. Well, so this is where you do get more of the actual, like, I think this is where you get the actual electric blanket, and like the military is like, all right, like. So kind of like I was getting into, then this is where you get, they're trying to evacuate everybody, get them as far away from Godzilla as possible. But it turns out on this island across the bay, there is like a class of like 10 students and their teacher on the island. So eventually our protagonists convince somebody, like, get over there to save them and all that. This is also where you get finally the introduction of like, well, you get the twins singing Mothra's theme, and you cut to what you would call it. I keep forgetting the Infant Island or Monster Island, as the people on there are also kind of mirroring the chant.
Yeah.
Oh, which I side note, I think that's really cool. The like reiteration, like that spiritual connection they have with Mothra.
Yeah.
And then like somewhere in here is also when you get to mention that like just because this Mothra dies does not mean Mothra's dead. It just like carries on into the next living embodiment of Mothra, which is the larva.
Yeah, and I guess a quick side note I just thought of, like, just randomly, I don't know why, this popped in my head suddenly, but they're, it's kind of weird, like, the Legendary series, like, their tribe that connects with Mothra, the Iwis, like, they don't make any noise at all.
Yeah.
And, the classic, I guess, for conversation's sake, I'll say Iwi people are chanting and singing and like very vibrant. It's just a weird.
It's a weird
weird
position.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why they. And so yes, after the Infant Islanders chant again, like you get the Mothra theme song and all that. This is where you finally get the larva hatching, and it's not that you just get one larva. There are actually 2 larvae in this set, which I guess like they weren't expecting. But you now get 2 larvae to start fighting with Godzilla, and like Godzilla's already made his way, I guess, across to the island with the students on it, and pretty quickly you get the fight with Godzilla and the larva, which is I think is a better fight. Just because like the larvae are like almost trading, and the 2 Mothra larvae are almost trading, like distracting Godzilla and like biting him and stuff like that, and then trying to like spray him with their kind of like web gunk stuff. Which you get that awesome moment of one like sneaking up behind Godzilla and like latching onto its tail, and Godzilla freaking the fuck out, trying to whip it off.
He did freak the fuck out. But it was, it's a much more interesting fight. It's a much more cat and mouse, and like there's just more to it. And probably like it's a lot easier for like the camera work. With that, with those larva versions of Mothra, which totally makes sense, but. It is also kind of like, I'm surprised he didn't like kick one of them or burn them or something.
Well, he kept trying, so he did keep trying to, but like they would hide behind like rocks, and like one was like hidden in a cave. And so like it actually showed, I think did a really good job of showing that like these are a little bit smarter than Godzilla. Godzilla's a very reactionary, like he's a beast. Whereas like Mothra overall is just a lot more of is aware of situations and is just more intelligent than Godzilla. So with that, like eventually they end up completely engulfing Godzilla in the web in their web and mucus shit. And like I guess push him into the ocean to win the fight. What I really loved about this and picked up on this watch through that I don't think I picked up on as a kid is why I think this is like really works is this was the first solution to beating Godzilla in this movie that wasn't trying to necessarily kill him. Like everything that the army threw at him or into that was with the intention to kill him and destroy him and like take him out. Whereas like this was the first one that was just about simply like containing him, so that he's forced to like calm down and can like be removed from the situation entirely.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of lends to the lore that I feel like we get a little bit more later on in the Legendary series of like Mothra understands Godzilla's just a little bit more of like a scared animal that feels just like it has to lash out to survive.
Yeah.
And I just think, and I'm sure I may be giving them more like more credit than maybe they intended for that to happen, for there to be, but that's just kind of something I picked up on as you watch through.
That makes sense. Like, I can see that. I mean, it seems like Godzilla and Mothra definitely have some kind of they do have. I mean, they have a connection, but it was kind of like in Raids Again, like they trapped him in the ice, but they also still tried to kill him at the same time.
Yeah.
So that it wasn't much of a contain him and move on.
Well, and I'm talking, when I say contain him and move on, I'm meaning specifically for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because like the whole, in this movie specifically, the army's interactions were all with the intention to kill.
Okay.
This is the first one that was just simply subdue and remove from the situation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which, and again, the only reason, like, and with that wraps up kind of the final fight and the movie, like the previous Showa era movies. Pretty much once the fight's done or Godzilla's disposed of, it kind of ends pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
So we'll just move right on to final thoughts. Wyatt, is there any like final thoughts or things about this movie that you wanted to bring up or discuss?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything with this one. I think it surprised me, which I feel like I've said that a lot about stuff that we've watched recently. But I don't know. I like it a lot. I would watch this one again.
Yeah.
And more frequently than like Raids Again or some of the other ones that we've watched previously. So
yeah. So leading into my final thoughts, and like I think there's a reason this one is one of the more iconic or classic Godzilla movies, because again I think this is where they, in the first one in Raids Again and King Kong vs. Godzilla, you get a lot of the establishing of the Godzilla like tropes and hallmarks. This is the one where they really start nailing it, and they start really nailing the vibe of these movies.
Yeah.
And I love it. This is a movie definitely like I would definitely like if I'm giving somebody a Godzilla starter list, this is going to be on that list in a big way.
I think so too. Definitely.
Yeah. And now is the time to go ahead and rank this puppy. Right now we have 8 movies in the ranking. Starting at the very bottom, number 8 is Godzilla Raids Again. After that we have King Kong, the original King Kong vs. Godzilla from 1962.
Yes.
And then after that we have the 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong. I believe after that we have Godzilla 2014.
Yep.
After that we are going to have, I believe, the original Godzilla 1954. No, we have Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire.
Yes.
How could I forget? After that, we have Godzilla 1954, followed by at number 2, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and at number 1 remains Godzilla -1. So it sounds like it's in the second spot there. But yeah, Godzilla -1 is still sitting at number 1. And Wyatt, start us off. Where do you think this should rank?
Oh lordy. This one's kind of hard.
This one's hard,
honestly.
Because with how we have the list, like, there are some, and this is where the list gets fucked up.
Yeah.
Because there are some on this list I would rank it above, but are below others I would rank above this one.
Yeah.
So I'll start it off. My bold vote is above the 1954. I think, again, as iconic as the 54 one is, if you watch that video, I fucking love that movie, and there's so much by it I'll stand by, and I think there's a lot that one might still do better.
Mm-hmm.
But for what, like, I was introduced to as a kid as it was a Godzilla movie, and what I look for in a Godzilla movie, this to me is when they start really, again, nailing that formula, nailing what I like about these movies. So that's where I'm going to put this at number 3.
Yeah.
Below King of the Monsters, because like that's still just such an entertaining movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to put that in there at number 3, I think.
You know, I was gonna put it at number 4.
Okay.
Honestly, but you know, I think you make a good point that this is kind of like what you think of when you think of like those movies you watched as a kid that like really caught you.
Yeah.
You know? And like the 54 one is great, but I appreciate this a lot more now I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
You know, and this one, I think I would have liked it a lot more than I thought I would have. You know, when I was younger. And like it had that feel of those older Godzilla movies that I love so much. So I'm gonna put it above the 54 also, but so number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah.
All right. And so with that, the new updated ranking now at number 9 is Godzilla Raids Again. Number 8 is King Kong versus Godzilla. Number 7 is Godzilla versus Kong. Number 6 is now Godzilla 2014. Number 5 is going to be Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Number 4 is going to be the original Godzilla 1954. Number 3 is now Mothra versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Mothra, Godzilla versus the Thing, whatever you want to call it.
All of the above.
Number 2 is still Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019 specifically. And still at number 1, Godzilla -1. I would just, really, off the top, I am shocked that 54 is already falling down the list. I was convinced that one, it was going to be -1 and 54 at 1 and 2 for the whole list. So this is really interesting to see how this is shaking out.
Yeah.
So join us next time as we continue on going through every single movie in the series. I believe next is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Actually, I think it's just called King Ghidorah. I'm sure I'll have a note here. But with that, join us then. We've been Let's Get Nerdy, and we got to get back to nerding out.
Okay.
You don't like that one?